Okay, we are in the middle of a bunch of series of questions from Rabbi, Abayis, about the act of Hafara and the act of Kiyam. Just to reiterate that a father can go ahead and either keep the neder, that's called Mekayim the neder, or B'mei for the neder, the whole time the girl is under his jurisdiction, provided she's a naira, still a naira or a katana. Once she reaches the age of Boigeres, 12 and 6 months, she's not under his jurisdiction anymore. Right? A husband, right? As soon as Nisuin, meaning the second stage of marriage, Nisuin, right? At that point in time, then she's under his jurisdiction. As Arusa, if she's an Arusa and a Naira, then they're underneath both jurisdictions, right? So we're describing, the Mishnah is describing a bunch of series of bias about being Mekayim Neder and made for Neder. And we'll continue discussing that. And we're at the Samich Tes Amid Beis. Samich Tes Amid Beis. Boy Rabbi, says Rabbi the following. Kayim L'chi Hayoim. He says your Neder is Mekuyim for today. So Stam, if you would say the Neder is Mekuyim, that's it. He added on to the Neder, as we said yesterday, the Neder is Mekuyim. But he said one word. He said the word Hayom. What's the implication? The implication is, right, but tomorrow it should be off. Mahu. Mi amin kimanda amala mufa lechila machar. Do we view it as if he said that it's off tomorrow, and therefore it would be off tomorrow? Dilma halayamala, or perhaps he never said it. So guys, let's just focus for a second. It seems to be a given that had he stated that tomorrow it's Kaim today, but Mufa tomorrow, it would be off tomorrow, despite the fact that one of the formulas, the protocols, it has to be by Yom Shamo, you have to take it off, right? The day, in other words, there's a statute of limitations, there's a window of when you could take off the neder, and that window is 1 day. But the inference over here is he only said it's Mekuyim today, and the inference is tomorrow it will be taken off, assuming that had he stated it, it would be off as, okay, that's one inference from this case. Now, Imtim Tzulaima, Amid Aleph. Imtim Tzulaima, Holei Amala. If you're going to say he did not say it to her, meaning he never stated that it should be taken off, and therefore it's Mekuyim, and that's it. What happens? Amala Mufa L'chila Machar. What happens if he would say just one thing? He would just say tomorrow, in other words, today I didn't say anything, tomorrow it should be taken off. Tomorrow it should be taken off. Now, this is very interesting because this is contradictory to the inference from the first case. The first case that sad to say the neder was taken off was because he only said it's Mekuyim today. Implication being, but tomorrow, if it's off. And over here, we're asking us a question. What happens if he just says it should be taken off tomorrow? Is it taken off or not? Says, do we say do we say that what? Tomorrow he can't take it off? Because even though he didn't state it, but the fact that he let the neder go that day, the neder is still in vogue. Again, how is he Mekayim the neder? There's two ways to Mekayim a neder. Either verbally say it or be quiet. And he was quiet that day because he said only tomorrow. So do we since he didn't state that it should be taken, be Mekuyim today, it means what? Then from today. So this is a very, very difficult shak v'tari that seems to be size for each other. So let's see the Ran on the top of Ayin Amar Aleph. Dimtim Sulaima Holoyamala. Mehai Lishna Mashma. From this Lishna, the implication is that Ilu Amar Kain L'chiyayom Umufa L'chila Machar. If you would have said both, Shitale de Mahani, that Pashit it would help. Ubasa Hachi Mashma, the Lay Mahani. In other words, in the first Lashon, guys, it's Mashma, had he said openly, Umufa Machar, it would be Mufar, correct? That's the Amid base. That's the bottom of the Amid. Guys, no, the whole tzad to say it wouldn't help because he didn't say anything. Mashma implication, had he stated implicitly that what it would be taken off tomorrow, it would be taken off tomorrow. What? He said Kayim today, and tomorrow take it off. In other words, because the old side was he didn't state it. Mashma had he stated it, it would be more for tomorrow. Yes, he has a small window. However, he went ahead and stated in that small window. He said tomorrow it should be taken off. So again, the lashon from the Amid Beis clearly is, had he said it implicitly, today it's mekuyim and tomorrow it's taken off, it would be mufer. However, now ubasahachi, and now mashma the laimahani, that it doesn't help to say why the haboi. We asking the following question: Mufur lechila machar mahu. What happens if it only say it's taken off tomorrow? Idilma kivin de amar kayim l'chiyayim ki amar la mufur lechila machar me'ayom kamar alma pshita le l'rabba the ilu amar kayim l'chiyayim umufur lechila machar loy mahani b'kashna adodi. Guys, what's the tzad in the Amid Aleph that it should be good? Because he didn't say kayim hayoim. Mashma had he said kayim hayoim and mufur l'machar, it wouldn't be good. Guys, look at me. Let's go to two studs with the shilas. In the first shilah, he only said one thing. He said it should be mekuyim today. In the second shilah, he only said one thing. It should be mufur l'machar. Now let's go to the implication. It should be mekuyim today, and the reason why it's not mufur because he didn't state it. Had he stated it, it would be off. Why did he say in the second lashon it should be mufur l'machar? The reason why it might be is because he didn't say kayim hayom. Implication, had he said kayim hayom, it would not be. So you have the two shilas. The Ran is saying the whole Gemara doesn't make any sense. Imtim Sulaima. Imtim Sulaima usually means predicated upon one thing, you have a second din. There's no predication over here. The things are two opposite to each other. So continues the Ran. Says the Ran, the Kashana Adadi, Ella, here's the way you have to learn Pshat and Shal, guys. Ella de Rabba bikula gavni misafkale. Rabba was misupik in Gansen. Fellas, the whole thing. He didn't know if you say kaim hayoim. He doesn't know to say mufayim. The whole thing is a suffix to him. The whole thing is a suffix to him. There's no givens. Right. The chika amar what's imtim saloimar, right? The chika amar imtim saloima, haloi ka'amar la, right? Lishna ketiyah nakat. He's using a abbreviated lashon. Ve'inachinami. The boy lemeima imtim saloima haloi amala. You should say imtim saloima if he didn't say anything to her. Even if he did say loy mahani. So again, he's using a very short lashon. But the bottom line is, this whole shaila is we don't know anything. Okay, and we're not going to answer this, guys. This is all a suffix. The whole shaila, whether the inference of by Nedarim is a suffix the raisa machmir. That's the rule of thumb throughout Masechta. This remains. Now we're going to say another shaila which we will try to answer. Right? We'll say another shaila which we try to answer. Okay. So again, the shaila is whether you said kaim hayom and you didn't say anything, whether you said mufur l'machar, you didn't say anything, whether you said both. Shaila. Okay, that's the way the Ran's learning. Now, continues the Gemara. The imtim tzoloimar afilu hachi kivin the kaim hayom l'machar kiman isyadami. Right? What are you going to say? If you're going to say that even if he says kaim hayom l'machar kiman isyadami, that the neder was mekuyim. In other words, if he said that, if you're going to say that even if he kivin the kaim hayom l'machar kiman isyadami, kaim l'chisha mahu. Okay, let's say you say the following. If you're going to say kaim l'machar, you have like Heshi said, you have a window over here. So if you're mekayim today, it's too late to do anything tomorrow. That's it. Good? Now, in our shaila that we don't know, but what's the tzad to say kayim hayom? It's finished because he has to deal with it that day, and after that day, it's finished. So if you said kayim hayom, and we're going to say that's it, what about the following? Let's take that and go ahead and do something else. Why if you say the following? Kayim l'chisha, the kiyim is for an hour, meaning I'm leaving myself the rest of the day. Mahu. Do we say, but since you mekayim only for 1 hour, but the rest of the day, what it is, mufar? Or maybe you didn't say anything. Maybe he didn't say anything. And if you're going to say he didn't say anything, he didn't say mufa achasha. Let's say he would say. So he says, let's say he would say that it's mekuyim for what? For an hour, and he states it should be mufa after an hour. Now he's within the window, right? Mi amrinon kivin de kaimi. Do we say once he's mekuyim it's mekuyim forever? By dilma kivin de kuli yuma bar hakama, since the whole day is the bar kama ubar afara, the whole day, the whole window. Ki ama mufa lechila achasha mahani. Okay, so what's the shaila? What happens if he goes ahead and says the following? It should be mekuyim for an hour. What's the din? After an hour. What happens if he says after an hour? It should be after you said mekuyim. What's the din if he's wads? He says it should be mufar. So what's the start to say it's usher? Once he said mekuyim, that's it. It's mekuyim. Or do we say no? He has a whole day to go ahead and deal with it. And since at the end, before the day was over, he went ahead and stated mufar after an hour, maybe it's off. So that Shiloh the Gemara will attempt to answer. Guys, you got it? Guys, that Shiloh the Gemara is going to attempt to answer. That last one. Okay? So now we know there's a din of Naziris. There's din Ish Kiyafli. Ish Kiyafli means the Lashon of expression. The Rambam in one of his in the Yad Chazaka has a seder called Hafla'ah. In Hafla'ah, you have the halachas of Nedarim, and you have the halachas of Shuas, I think so, and halacha of Naziris, I know so. Halacha of Naziris, they're all there. They're all there. Good. Why? Because each one comes about through an expression, and we're going to see Masechta Nazir very much is predicated. We saw Kinuyim Naziris and Naziris. In other words, a lot of the protocols of Nedarim appear in Masechta Naziris. So here's the following case, and from this case we want to be poishit. Listen to this very interesting case. It's the Mishnah in Naziris. It says the word Tashma. A woman says, Hareini Nazira. A woman says, I'm a Nazareth. She says, I'm a Nazir. Vishama Baila, her husband hears, can he take it off if he wants to? Absolutely, right? It's Devar Bino Levena, he doesn't want him drinking wine. It's the same day, he could take it off, right? Va'amar, and he says, Va'ani, and I. So, guys, what is he saying? What? I want to be like her. Okay? So he's being matfis in her. This atfasa. Again, we spoke about Nedarim. They had fasa by comparison to something, making something asa. So he's matfis in her. Is he mekayim haneder? Automatically. Because if he's not mekayim the neder, then he's nothing. Then what is he? In other words, in order for him to be a Nazir, it has to be that what he's agreeing to a Naziris. So in the Vani, two things. Licked in it what? Mekayim the woman, and also licked in the Ani that I'm a Nazir. That's what it says. Ein yachal hafer. He's not able to take it off. He's not able to take it off the Naziris. Va'amai, Nema, Va'ani the Amar hu al nafshe the Havi Nazir. Aval hareini Nazira delay the sha'achas kaima la'achasha. Ibor lefa my ein yachal hafer. La mishum the kivin the kaimi pirish. In other words, the assumption is that one thing he wants to be a Nazir, and secondly, he wants her to be a Nazira, but not forever. Only what? For an hour. And after an hour, and it says en yachal hafir. So let's be pushed to Shaila. Once you makayim a neder, once you keep the Naziris for 1 hour, en yachal hafir. You can't take it off. Again, when he said va'ani, two things are happening. One, he's a Nazir, and he is mekayim the neder, and it says lo yachal hafir. And the havmina of the not the havmina, the direction that the Gemara is going into be paisha that shaila is that let's say that he only wants him mekayim for an hour, and after an hour he wants to take it off, and he can't. So you see that a kiyum is la'olam because the nazir is la'olam because he can't take it off. And so the lashon is very fun. Lashon and Nedarim is mishun. It's so extra. But again, let's see it again one more time. V'amai, why can't he take off why can't he be mefer? Nema, why do I say, V'ani the Amar, the Ani he's saying, Al Nafshe the Havi Nazir, on himself that he's a Nazir. Aval Reini Nazira di law, but hers, the Sha'achas Kaimi, but La'achas Shah, Iboy Lefer, Amay Yachalafer. So it's Kaimid for an hour, If he wants to take it off after an hour, why not? Again, Bani clearly is, again, no, but again, it has to be Mekayim the Nedarim. Oh, so he's Mekayim the Neder. But yeah, because the fasta movable like the fasta. Why do you think the guy wants his woman to nurse forever? In other words, there's a swear to say, I'll limit the amount of time. I could say that, right? But if I could say that, it's a possible raya. Now, the obvious answer is you're not locked into it, and the answer is like you're saying. But right now, the Gemara is entertaining that's the pshat. Says the Gemara, "Iboy leifer mayin yachal lahafer lav mishum the kivin the kaimi. Once it's there forever." So like kasava kol vani kimandama kayim lechila oilam dami. You're not locked. It's not a clear-cut raya because you're not locked into saying that. Why he's only mekayim for an hour? Maybe he's mekayim forever. But ain't achinami. If you would say only an hour, it can only be an hour. So it remains in the bayit lo yifshata. It remains in the bayit lo yifshata. What? We're not speaking. He's not speaking about the length of Naziris. I'm saying his ability to mekayim the Naziris. You're right. The length of a Naziris, but he's cutting short on Naziris. If you let the Naziris play out, it's for 30 days. We're discussing the ability. How long he's going to Mekayim had Naziris for? What happens if you'd say, I'm in his nose? He goes, no, you're not. It's 30 days. No, it's not 30 days. You stopped the Naziris. If you let it extend, Avi, then it's 30 days. But you stopped it early. Guys, good? So, you weren't pushing the Shiloh at all. You weren't pushing the Shiloh. It's very, very interesting. Says the Mishnah. Okay, so now we get back to the din of Nisreikna. Guys, the din of Nisreikna. Let's go over this. We did this the other day. We had a chart. It was a Sunday chart, right? What's the din of Nisreikna? At one point, the Naira Murasa was totally underneath her father's jurisdiction. Binurah Beis Avia. She now goes from father, and the father's sharing her with her husband. She's an Arusa. So they both could take off the Naziris. They both could take off both have to be made for the neder, right? They both have to be made for the neder. We said, what happens if he dies? The husband dies. Then the father inherits the right. The father inherits the right of what? Of the Orus. He inherits that right, and he can be made for himself. What about if the father dies? Then he can't. It's only a one-way street. It's only a one-way street. So says the Mishnah, Mesa Av, Loy Nisreikna Rishus Labal. If the husband dies, the father dies. If the father dies, he does not bequeath to his son-in-law the ability to take off the neder. However, Meis Habal, if the husband dies, Nisreikna Rishus La'av, the fact of Rishus will be inherited by the father. He always retained his rights. He's inheriting his son-in-law's rights. He's guys, the Shalom Mikdash Kolish or Megas Gaius, right? He's inheriting his rights. It's not like, oh, he's the only game in town. There's like two people over here. That portion, he's inheriting it. It's going to him. In this way, the koyach of the father is stronger than the koyach habal. But in another way, the koyach of the husband is better than the koyach of the father. Shehabal mefer bebeger, ve'av eina mefer bebeger. The husband can take off when she's a begeres, and the Baal cannot, and the husband cannot, and the father cannot. Guys, what does it mean? Guys, is she in a sewer? No, because if she's in a sewer, even a naira the father can't take off. The third parsha, guys, if the marriage extends to the second stage of nisuin, even if the girl is still a what? Naira, the father can't take it off, only the husband. So when it says over here she's a Baigeres, it's speaking Erison. In other words, not a Naira Murasa, Baigeres Harusa. A Baigeres, that is what is Arusa. That only the husband and not the father. That only the husband and not the father. And we'll see what exactly the case is. Shamal Baal Mefer Bebeger, Va'av Eina Mefer Bebeger. The husband can be made for Bebeger, but the father can't. Now, very interesting. My timer, what's the reason that the husband cannot? What's the reason the husband cannot? Right? Why can't he inherit what? The father. The Amakra, because the pasuk says, Binureha Beis Avia. She's in her father's house, meaning The whole time she's a Naira, Murasa, even when the father's dead, she's still in the father's house. So if the father's dead, he still doesn't go ahead and bequeath this to what? So now, this is my timer a reason. However, very interesting. So that tells me the case of what, of why the Baal doesn't inherit. How about Mesa Baal Nistek Rishus La'av Minalon? How do you know that what? That how do you know that what? That Mesa Baal Nistek Rishus La'av Minalon? How do you know the father does get it? So Amar Rava says Rava, the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, Hayu Siela Ish. Guys, if this sounds familiar, let's go back in time. We began the Perek, Nairu Murasa. What's the source? So we said there were machloikis. One source was the three Parshias. First one speaking about totaling the father's jurisdiction. Third Parsha totally in the husband's jurisdiction. Middle Parsha, V'hoyasiya, is she's an Arusa, and it says V'h. So therefore we connect Parsha number one and extends to number two, that the father still doesn't lose rights. That was. Then we had a second source, Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael said that it said we had a hekesh. It said, the lashon was, bein ish leishtay, bein av lebitay. Then make a hekesh. And it says, Binureh Besavia. So we make a hekesh between the father and the husband. Okay? So we asked, what does Rabbi Yishmael do with the V'hoyasiya? We said for Rabbi's din. This is Rabbi's din. This din of nisroikna, that's what he uses for the double lashon. How do you see from the double lashon? Fellas, that there's a din of nisroikna? Let's see. Amid Beis, makish koidme havaya shniya, lekoidme havaya rishona. We make a hekesh between before the second kedushin, before the first kedushin. Ma koidme havaya rishona, just like before she got engaged. She was mureses the first time. Av meifel l'chudei, av koidme havaya shniya. So too before the havaya shniya, av meifel l'chudei. So you want to know how do you know that the father inherits? How do you know that the father inherits? I'll tell you how you know. You have hoya siya. Guys, look at me. Double lashon of kedushin. Hoya siya. Before she's married, who has the right? She's a nairo. Who has the right? Father. Husband dies. In the Bimei Nairis, she's an Arusa. She's still an Naira. Husband retains the rights. So you see that the father gets the right back. So you see that what? The father in the Shreikna, right? Why? Because we have a Hekesh. Just like before the first Kedushin, he was the only game in town. So too after the second Kedushin, right? He's only game in town. That's the limud for the father. Okay. Read the Gemara. Ema, the Ema, Hani Mili ben Nedarim Shleinir La'aris. Let's say the Aris never heard it, or he died. In other words, I'd say the svara is that when can the father take it off, be mefer, or like after the husband has no shachas to it. Av nedarim sheniru la'aris loy matzi mefer av, but in nedarim that the aris has a shachas to, that he saw, maybe not. In other words, you're assuming that all nedarim the father would get back. Maybe the father would only get back ones that the husband never heard about, but had the husband heard about it, maybe not. Meheketesa. And for the Gemara, no. Nedarim shleiniru la'aris binureh beisavia nafka. It says binureh beisavia. So any neder that's not shaykh to the aris you already heard from, he can be made for binureh beisavia when she's still in the father's house. So Ella, what does the v'mhoyasiya must come to teach me? The nedarim that even the husband did here. So therefore, you have two lishayos. Okay. So how do you know that the husband doesn't get it? Because she's always considered binureh beisavia as if the father's around. How do you know the father gets it? From Hoyasiya, we make a hekesh between the first marriage and the second marriage. Just like before the first marriage, he was the only game in town. So too in the second marriage, he's the only game in town. That's the of this right. Now, what's that? That's going in the last case. That the husband could be made for a beggar. Now, again, it's a beggar arusa, guys, because if it's in the sewer, afilu naira is out of the ballpark. So therefore, we know. So what's exactly the case? Hey, Dummy, what exactly is the case? Ilema shekitcha kishahi naira. He was Makadisho when she was a naira, ubagra, and then she became a begeres michti. In other words, she is still in the Arison stage. She's still in the Arison stage, but age-wise, she has grown from being from 12 in a day to what? Oh, past 12 and 6 months. Michti, Misa Moitzia. What? Let's say the father dies. Guys, a father has the rights to marry off his daughter, right? The father has the right to go ahead, and there's a katana sell her off. The father has the right to be made for. What happens if the father dies and there's brothers? Do the brothers inherit the rights to the sister? No. Misa Moitzia Miyad Ha'av. Misa takes her out. Good. But the brothers do not inherit. The brothers do not inherit the rights.
Rights
To be made for the neder or any other right to marry her off, right? Midrabana, they marry her off. What I'm saying, but no. So now, uboigeris might seem rishus av, and being a boigeris also takes out the rishus av. The father loses the right if she would just be aged. So ma misa loy nesroikna rishus lebal, just like if the husband, if he dies, if the father dies, the baal doesn't get it. Bin a rebbe sevilla. So too, if just becomes a boigeres and she leaves the rishus of the father, it doesn't go to the baal. Outside, guys, we said on the Amid Aleph, right? We said there is no din of the husband inheriting the right, right? The husband inheriting the right from the father. So if a girl is a naira and she's married and she gets erisin, and now there's a husband and a father, they're both in the ballpark. You need them both. What happens if the father dies? In a Rabbi Sevilla, she's still considered in the father's house. Good, right? She's still considered in the father's house. Not. You want to text Nastin not to bother me in English here. Anyway, so guys, watch. Guys, look at me. Clearly, we just stated if the father dies, the husband does not inherit. Good. Right. Good. What takes her out of the rishus? Misa, and yet the husband doesn't inherit. So boigeris, which also takes her out of the rishus, the husband also should inherit. So that can't be the case in the Mishnah. Our Mishnah is the case with the husband has a right and only the husband. But no, if she started out as a naira, right, and so that's the case right over here. She started out as a naira, and in the Erisin period, she became a boigeris. So the same thing, just like Misa, we will say in this line, this Reichna, who adin boigeris. So that can't be the case. In other words, if he got engaged to her when she was a naira, and during the Erisin period she became a boigeris, he would not inherit the rights. Just the same way, if the father died, he would inherit the rights. That's what the Mishnah would not happen. Says the Gemara, Ma Misa loy nisroikna rishus the baal. Just like the death of the father, the husband doesn't inherit the rights. Af bagris loy nisroikna rishus the baal. So too bagris he wouldn't inherit the rights. Ella, what must the case be? Shekitsha kishi boigeres. He's makadosh and she's a boigeres. And so what? So he's the only game in town, even though it's not Rusa. He's the only game in town. Fred the Gemara, we already learned that on the Mishnah on that Ayin Gimel Amid Beis at the top. Boigeres sheshasa yud beis chaydesh, a boigeres who waits 12 months, right? It's a machlokes between Rebbe Loza and who takes it off. Rebbe says the Baila takes it off. Chum says the Baal can't be made for until what? Until Nesuin. So there's machlokes over there. So what's the case? The case of our Mishnah is the same case on Daf Ayin Gimel, which is speaking about a boigeres. So Fred the Gemara Kasha now, how could you go ahead and said you already learned that already? If this is the case, El Shekitchek Shia boigeres, Hatanina Chadazimna, HaBoigeres Sheshasa Yubes Chaydesh, a boigeres that waits 12 months to be taken in marriage, and then the husband's chayim is zainos. The Baal's mefer. Machlokes who's mefer. Good. Now, the Gemara digresses to discuss this nakuda that you're saying for a boigeres is 12 months. Now, I take you back to the beginning of Masechta Ksubis, guys. Guy gets married, waits 12 months. Can she start eating from him? Yeah. Right? Because after 12 months, right? And if he was a kohen, she could start eating truma, right? So that's only by a naira. By geris, we sum 30 days machlokes. So now we have a side question. Let's leave the kasha over here. Why do you have to say it twice? Let's really analyze the Mishnah on Ayin Gimel. Why do you say that a Begeris you'd have to wait 12 months before you chayv him Zainis? We know a Begeris is earlier. So that's what the Gemara is questioning. Read the Gemara. It's a side question. Read the Gemara. Begeris shasi yibes chaydesh. Hagufa kasha. That Mishnah itself is innately shver. Amrit, you say Begeris shasa shnei mes chaydesh. The Begeris lamli shnei mes chaydesh. Begeris b'lam yom sagila. After 30 days, he would have to go and support her. So and for the Gemara, don't learn by Geres that you wait. Learn as two separate cases. Tani by Geres and whatever man that is. Ushashasa your base chaydesh. So now it's not kasha, right? It's not the 12 months is not going back on by Geres. It's two separate cases. You come welcome kasha back to the barn. Back to our question. What's our question? If the case is speaking where it's Makadisha when she was a by Geres, right? That's the same thing as the Mishnah later on. That he's made for. So Ibo is saying hacha dafka. Over here is the main Mishnah. We're going to see there this machlokas between Rebbe Lezer and Rabbanon. So whether the man has a machlokas, what's the tuffle? Okay, by Geras dafka, by Geras over there is dafka. However, what about it? So why do we learn it over here? Pirish, guys. Really, the main Mishnah is later on. Why do you list it over here? Because we just want to go ahead and contrast with the rishus of the father to rishus of the Baal. But really, that's the main Mishnah. Okay, so Yotzim Midvareinu, that the father has a right. He's the concept of him inheriting, but the husband doesn't inherit. The father inherits because it says he doesn't inherit because it says that he's always considered around. The case of Boigeres is a case where he's Mekadosh when she was a Boigeres, but he's Mekadosh when she was a Naira. He would not go ahead and be queef because just like his death will not be queef, so too Bagras not be queef. Good evening to all.